Should be up a second.
Child.
Warn you, 9:30 is my bedtime, so gotta get much work done without me.
I hear that.
Yeah.
And then there's two ones.
We can be there or not? Okay.
I would say.
Call the June Town Council meeting to order. What will the roll, please?
Sure. Mayor Foskey,
Present.
Councilmember Blossom,
Present.
Councilmember Marino, Councilmember Berger,
Present.
Councilmember Oswald, Councilmember Gillespie. Present. All members are present. We have a quorum, sir.
Thank you. Pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Consideration and approval of meeting minutes from the May 24th, 2021 Town Council meeting. Anybody have any additions or corrections to that?
I would like to propose an addition, and it would be with the approval of Ms. Knott here because of the comment that she made. And it's on page 4 relative to the discussion around TNW block and the dust issue. The way the minutes read, it essentially says, and I don't have it off in front of me, but what is in the dust is a carcinogen. I don't believe that has been proven definitively. Could we say maybe? It has not been tested to the best of my knowledge.
Do you have information on
The
silica?
Yeah, it's in the minutes.
Wondering whether proven that the silica dust is a carcinogen or whether that is.
I don't have that.
Well, it puts us
Good question.
potentially.
Yeah, we could change it to say, dust in the air, an issue. What is in the dust may be a carcinogen rather than which is.
That would be my suggestion, until we know definitively one way or the other.
If you would specify that it's silica, then that, as well as the change you're proposing, then that would be okay.
I don't know for a fact what it is, but if that is what it is, then Matt, you have a recommendation in that regard. You've done more research.
I have, and the information is around the movement of stone doesn't create, it's the carcinogen is located when it's actually crushing the gravel or in the quarry itself, but not in moving from one pile to the other.
So, Sarah, would it be acceptable to say may contain silica and may be a carcinogen?
That as well,
Yeah.
changing
I mean, if somebody says 2 and 2 is 5 at the meeting, you gotta report that, that's public comment. We can't change the public comment. Because we don't agree with it. Unless she wants to say, maybe we should say it's her opinion.
And I would be fine with that as well.
Yeah, we can't, I don't think we should be changing what people say. Yeah, but you can say, it says, explain, it says, Mrs. Cernak, it's her opinion that the issue is not simply a dust. It's her opinion. She said, explain that. If that, I'd agree. If that's what she's-
I would be fine with.
Yeah. I understand why you're saying.
I got that.
Any other comments on that first one? Okay, do we have a motion to accept the minutes from the May 24th regular town council meeting? Second? With the addition, yes. Second? Any further discussion? All in favor? All right, June 7th, public hearing. Any comments on that one? Any corrections?
Motion to approve is presented.
Second? Any discussion? All in favor? All right. We have a fairly large public business thing to look at the list here. So bear with us, we'll get through it. And first up on the list is the monthly report from the Hancock Main Street.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Scott, Town Council, and Police Force.
All right. Is there a microphone?
If you turn it on, everything is ready. Okay. This is really just a progress report. It's not an annual report. It's not quite that formal. I just wanted to bring you all up to speed. We haven't talked in a while. Please feel free to stop me at each talking point if you have a question. The new Anacog Main Street website is now live. It's experienceanacog.com. We encourage everyone to check it out. Of course, there can always be tweaks. We want to hear back from you, input. In addition to providing information about the Main Street organization, it is the most comprehensive tourism site that Anacog has ever had. The rack cards that promote the URL of the website are on the back side and podium. Please take one as you leave. Those are in the north and south Eastern Shore Welcome Centers, as well as Newton on 64 and Gracie on I-85. We've been working with ESBA Tourism to simplify the submission of events to their online calendar rather than maintain a calendar ourselves. They have simplified the process and they are taking on entering it into the ESBA website, which helps a lot of people who don't want to go through that learning curve. We're encouraging all Anacog and Middle Shore businesses and organizations to take advantage of this simplified process so that we can create a single go-to events calendar for the Middle Shore that will help visitors and residents alike. It will also be eventually seamlessly linked to the Virginia Tourism website. Main Street has distributed 5,000 of these professionally designed Anacog rack cards that promote the URL, as I said, to the sites that I mentioned, as well as the farmers market, the wharf, and the town office. We've placed ads promoting Anacog on the Virginia.org website, Virginia Tourism Guide, and ESBA Activities Guide. We've just submitted a new grant to Virginia Tourism for funds to maintain and expand this promotional footprint. Excuse me, y'all, lose my voice. With ads through 2022, rack cards into additional welcome centers, and a series of YouTube videos featuring all of Anacog's assets. The new town brand is complete. We are working with the town to roll it out to our businesses and then the larger community. OMS will host the brand launch event on July 9th and the second Friday, at which time Main Street will officially present the new brand to the mayor and the town council. The final piece of the brand package is incorporating the brand design into town signage design, which is now in development and will be delivered to the town shortly. We are working with the architectural firm provided by Main Street on placemaking projects and building facade renderings for the downtown district, and continue to apply for grant funding to implement the placemaking project. We're expecting to hear any day now if we got one that we applied for through DHCD to improve the Custis Park and provide an informational kiosk in that little piece of land the town owns next to the side of the movie theater. Keep your fingers crossed. We're near completion of our work with architects, engineers, and marketing consultants on the financial feasibility study of the Wilson Building. This work has produced a market study of Anacog, which will be invaluable to all businesses. It's available to anyone that signed up for our newsletter. We'll put together an information package for any potential business developers that will be available if they're interested in the Wilson or the Chandler Building. You may sign up for these newsletters again at experienceanacog.com. We continue to partner with the town to distribute the remaining funds to small business recovery assistance, qualifying Anacog businesses. And finally, but not least, we're delighted to announce that we have just increased our board of directors with the election of Bob Spa and Jeff Renem, and we're adding volunteers weekly to our audience. Zoom tight. Are there any questions? Nathan,
Could you please tell me, go back to the side of the movie theater and what is your plan for that?
it's well, if we did it's an information kiosk, so it'll be actually a little landscape spot right here on the sidewalk. The funds include a bench, hardscaping, and a three-dimensional four-sided kiosk with a roof on it that will have town map. It will have what's going on at this. It will have a side of history. I have a wonderful photograph one that Farmville, which is the Main Street community, did that I can send you. So
but I'll be happy to send it to all of y'all.
Well, my question arises because I think it's an ideal spot for a restroom or restrooms for the town. And in a very visible place and a very comfortable place to go to. I mean, I don't know whether we're actually going to do it and have any plans to do it.
Yeah.
But if the kiosk and information thing is there, people will have a place to use that as well, that facility.
If we get the funding, we're going to work to perfect that design with the architectural firm that we can access to. And if the council desired it, all you have to do is say, could you please incorporate, they can give you renderings and plans. I think it's a wonderful idea. You've got that space and it really will only accommodate a few vehicles for parking. So why not use it for an asset? So yeah, please decide amongst yourselves if you want that. We will work with you.
We haven't gotten the grant yet.
We haven't got the grant yet, but I count my chickens for me. I'm never the optimist.
And if we all have an optimistic idea of what we want to do with it, then it'll happen.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm not familiar with the term placemaking project. I don't know what
A
that means.
placemaking project is creating beautiful, well-lit, well-paved paths back to the parking lot on Queen Street, increasing the accessibility of the corner at Custis Park, maybe making it more accessible to all people and handicapped people and strollers and all of that. I mean, we have so many places already, but creating what Mavis and I are talking about would be a placemaking thing. And the decisions that we're making are based on feedback that we got from the community with all the community engagement. Our kind of ultimate dream is we've also contacted and again, I'm ahead of myself here a little bit, but we contacted the Playhouse and have talked to them about working on a mural for the side of the building and hopefully making that whole corner a commemoration corner of the bird coming 350th birthday. So maybe have a lot of groups weighing in on a good start timeline type of mural. So a lot of plans. We're going for the money to go. Good luck. Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? I'm happy to take questions from you. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the, is, police officer, chief.
Yes, we hired Dalton Wood, over to my right. Dalton started a month ago, Accomack Sheriff's Office, as a corrections officer. And before that, he was employed by the Accomack School for general maintenance. So far, he's been doing well. Seems very friendly. I don't know that.
Well, welcome to the town. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
So you're in training now?
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt today.
Yeah, he's in the next class at the end of the summer. Oh, one way. So he's already been once. So just to go again.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, thank you. Welcome to the town.
It's nice to meet you.
Yeah, thank you. So we're up to, we have the pre-op.
Actually, as of tomorrow, we'll be fine.
So who's the fourth one?
The fifth,
4 and 5. Right?
he's 4.
Oh, he's 4. Okay.
The fifth one.
Oh, the other one's on leave. That's
He started today.
we started back. Okay, that we didn't. Okay, so we have another one coming.
Yep, so he'll be here tomorrow, Timothy Greenwood.
Okay, wonderful. So we're back up to full strength.
Yeah.
But not until they get trained. They can't.
Until they get- No, yeah, be with somebody.
Okay. All right, well, thank you. All right, the first of the public hearings here is the public hearing on the Town Code 2-27, election dates and terms. As many of you know, the General Assembly told us that we have to change our elections from May to November. This is fairly straightforward, but we have to have a public hearing. We're basically going to, we used to have elections in May, and we were, with state elections at that time, and we would take office the fiscal year of July 1. And now we're going to move the elections back to November in line with federal and state elections, and then we're going to take office January 1. And there's no change except it means that we will serve an extra 6 months on our terms here. Instead of leaving in July of next year, we will work all the way to January of 2022. So we just have, this public hearing, I'm opening the public hearing. Any public comment about this? I don't think this is too terribly, we don't really have any choice. We've been told not to do this. And any public comment? All right, I'm going to close the public hearing. Any com- oh, sorry. No, I'm going to close, you're not public, so. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay, now council comments, yeah.
okay, I just wanted to, I've read an article that there was a cost savings to the towns
Yes,
that this.
we don't have to pay for elections anymore, basically. You know, because they're all going to be done by the county.
So we were setting up and that timing and everything was,
We had to pay the election people, I don't know how much was it, a couple $1,000?
It's about $1,500.
Yeah, because we were the only elections in May, so.
Right.
Yeah, but now, there will won't be any elections here. That's the downside is you're gonna have to go over to, Mantua Middle School to vote.
and the other downside is that all the big important,
Yes, yeah.
and then there's little Yancock Council.
We'll get better turnout, but it might not, yeah.
Yes.
So anyway, but we have no choice, so, yeah.
Yes, I know.
So, on close the public hearing, do we need to vote on this now?
No, not tonight.
Oh, that's right, we just had a public hearing. All righty. Next public hearing is the public hearing for 9 Market Street Homestay.
Sure. We received a proper application from the owners of 9 Market Street to have their home operated as a homestay or Airbnb or VRBO or whichever you choose. I did an interview with the owner. We agreed that they had ample off-street parking for 3 cars. They have 2.5 baths. They have 4 bedrooms. So typically we allow 2 guests per stay. So we're suggesting that there is no more than 8 guests at any one time. There's no reason inside the application that I would do anything other than approve it. So it's my recommendation to the council that based on zoning and its intent and alignment with the zone, with the ordinance, that we approve the application put forward.
All right, this is the public hearing. I have one letter here. Does anybody, do you have any correspondence?
I received none.
Okay, I've got one letter here. I'll read into the record. Town of Monadnock council meeting. This is from Sharon and John Sneed, who live at 6 King Street. I guess they live 8 King Street. Anyway, we strongly oppose the use of 9 Market Street as a homestay. Our backyard is adjacent, and the noise at night would be very troublesome. 6 King Street is farther away, but the noise from this can be considerable. The use of residential property for commercial purpose seems strange, particularly in a historic district. This type of incursion devalues our property, as well as the quality of life. Thank you for your consideration. Yours truly, Sharon and John Steve. All right, is there any public comment outside of this? Kathy? State your name and address, please.
Hi, Kathy Boyd, 5 Market Street. For a second, I thought I was having a senior moment, couldn't remember where I was. Steve and I oppose this homestay. However, on both the homestay applications, our suggestion might be a moratorium before people say no, so that the planning board and the council could consider what's going on with homestays. Clearly, it's an issue that other municipalities and towns have had and are considering making rules, what have you. Our concern with 2 of these applications is the density of 2 homestays right in our little neighborhood. And but we're not opposed to homestays, but we think that they should be considered in perhaps our Main Street looking at things. I'm not sure of that, but the council certainly. Considering our bed and breakfasts that are already here and established, our Hotel Charlotte, we would much prefer, I think, having full-time residents. However, an appropriate and thought-out plan that the town would make about homestays might be the way to go. So our suggestion is that the town have a moratorium right now, which would mean that we're not saying no to either of the homestay applications tonight, and consider it in a broader plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public? Sarah?
Sarah Knox, 1 Market Street. One thing, I echo what Kathy said, and I would like to point out that even though the addresses of these 2 houses are on different streets, they are actually next to each other. So as part of the planning commission decision during the moratorium, which sounds like an appropriate time to do that. And I remember that at the last meeting, there were some ideas floated about how many homestays would there be total, how many would there be in an area, how many would there be right next door to each other. So I would encourage that to be part of that conversation, not to make a decision tonight, but to look at the effect on the neighborhood of having next door homestays where you could get, a great big roof that splits between the 2 houses and raises the roof all the way up and down the town. Thank you.
Any other public comment? I got.
I'd like to reiterate.
State your name and address, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Bob Spot, 10 Market Street. I'd like to reiterate what they said, and meaning we have a moratorium on it, because I think the town needs to develop a urban planning scheme, which may come through Main Street or the town council or anywhere you want. But I don't think you can have haphazard development, meaning mixing commercial Airbnbs, homestays with residential. I would not want, if I were the existing owner and I had 4 children, I would not want an Airbnb right next to me. Now they've moved and they want to be an Airbnb, so I think that we have to look at it in the broader context of what the town wants to be, how they want to grow, where they want the commercial activity, and put in an element of urban planning. So I would like there to be a moratorium on it until we figure out exactly how we want this to work. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? John?
I don't know if this is on. John Simpkins, 19 King Street. Yeah, the only the consideration I had was people are saying it's commercial use. It's pretty accurate. I mean, it is a commercial use. You could argue, well, it's people that are staying there using it as a residence, but it's an investment. It's an investment property at that point. And that's a commercial use in my language. And the problem you get, I think, is houses are primary residence. That's a shelter. So you're fulfilling your need for shelter with your primary residence. That's something that you're going to hold. As an investment, it's more discretionary. That making that investment is a discretionary decision. So it's like any other investment. So what you end up with if you have, and I can't begin to tell you what sort of percentage you would need, but the market becomes a lot more volatile when there's a preponderance of investment properties over primary residences because they're not needed for shelter for the owners. And you'll see in markets that are primarily either vacation rentals or second homes even, that the market is more volatile. It's more strongly affected by the factors that affect housing markets, but it's amplified. That effect is amplified in areas that are primarily investment properties, or I don't even, like I said, I don't even know if it's primarily, but that's a point I want to make is it may affect the market in ways you're not aware of.
Public comment? I think, Lisa, yeah, I'm going to call you next time. I can see you back here.
Hi, Lisa Cuba, 9 Market Street. So I'd like to reiterate Matt's comments. I submitted the application within the requirements of the town. You know, my family will be 10 minutes away in the event there's any issues with renters. We don't want issues with renters either. You know, I grew up here. I love the town. That's why we're here. We get the opportunity to move just outside of town. So we intend to have good renters, follow up with them, manage any sort of issues. And in addition, for my family, when we travel, we stay in Airbnbs because I do have children. And those aren't in Oneontauk. So, sorry. I'm sorry that you guys are against this. But I do feel, you know, I will manage it. We will manage it. My husband's here as well. So we will manage it. We hope it actually supports the town by allowing people to visit town and explore the town and get comfortable in the town. You know, we will be close by in the event of any issues.
Any other public comment on this homestead? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing on the 9 Market Street homestead. Council comments, or do we want to open the public hearing for the next one as well? Go ahead.
I just want to say the same, that I understand the concerns, but I also understand that these 2 applications do meet our current code. And if you're just going to put a moratorium on, and I do agree that that's a way to go for the next time around, and let the planning commission plan, let the council decide. But if you have something in place right now, and that's the application people have put forward, I think we should honor that. The other thing I'm thinking is that there's a lot of investment going on right now in organizations and commissions to bring tourists and tourism to town. If you're going to spend all that time, effort, and money, where are they going to go? And one of the things you do I travel with my dog, and we traveled with children. So you don't want to be in a hotel the whole time, and Airbnb is the perfect alternative for a lot of travelers. And in a town like this, you're not going to get the rowdy beach-going big party thing because we don't offer a beach. We don't have the amenities, the things that young people are looking for. I was in the bed and breakfast business, and one of my favorite things was that my guests were mostly over 40 and headed to 50s and 60s, and they were wonderful people. And I think, and I'm over 40 headed for, and we stay at Airbnbs wherever we travel because it is comfortable and it's secure and you feel safe with your family. And I just think right now, if we just follow through with what we've got on the table and then look for the future and do it right and don't just knock somebody down now because you're not happy with it. We're planning. That's what we need to do, plan, my opinion.
Do we want to hear the second application before? Or any other comments?
Yes, I do.
We have all right, we have a second, open the public hearing on public hearing for the homestay at 6 King Street now.
Sure. 6 King Street is a little bit different because it has existed as a homestay since before there was actually a requirement for a special use permit. So this is an existing homestay. It's been an existing homestay for a long time. It's transferring owners into a person who's appropriately applied for, went through the process, and they have the correct number of bedrooms and off-street parking to house up to 6 guests. So it's my recommendation that council approve this application to continue this residence as a homestead.
Is the owner of 6 here? Oh, yeah, do you want to make a comment or?
Sure.
Yeah.
6 King Street. This is on. I appreciate everybody's concerns.
You're the existing owner, right?
Yes,
Okay, you're
the existing owner.
okay, you're not the applicant.
Did you want to speak to the applicant?
I just want to get clear to the people. who
Okay,
come.
well, I
That makes
mean,
sense.
we started doing this 8 years ago. We have never had a complaint from a neighbor. We've never had a problem with any of the renters, because you don't get, as Nathan said, you don't get spring breakers coming to a Hancock. You know, the fact that there would be too close together is not much different than having a yacht club come to the wharf. I mean, you have the same sort of risks, right? I mean, people are coming for vacation at a time away from home. Although, you know, honestly, like I say, we've never ever had a problem with anybody having to call the police or, you know, a neighbor complaint or anything. So, you know, I can understand that you would want to, you know, keep an eye on the number of rentals, because the size of the town, but, you know, this applicant is coming in, he fell in love with the town, he rented from us, and he fell in love with the town and wants to, you know, come back here and be able to stay here part-time. They won't be here all the time, they live in Richmond, but, you know, so many people that have stayed at our house have come and bought houses in Hancock because they came and they discovered it. We discovered it that way, we stayed at an Airbnb. So, I hope that you'll agree to let the sale go through and continue the rental.
Sure.
Yes.
I have a question. I'm confused because the applicant is Carl Smith.
Yeah,
I'm the current owner. I'm the current owner.
So you're selling to Carl
him.
Smith. Okay, and you're the one applying for the.
correct. That's what I
Okay,
said.
thank you.
This is a public comment. That's just public. Any public comment? Is anybody on this one? Kathy? Yeah.
I have a question, Kathy Boyd again, 5 Market Street. Is the sale of your property contingent on this? So I think that needs to be just public information.
Any other public comment on this, Jeff?
That up here without tripping, that's good. Hi, Jeff Nim, 14 King Street. I just want to re-encourage the concept of the moratorium. You know, the real estate market is high. There's a lot of people looking to make investments. And I think this could get a little tricky if we approve one, don't approve one, wait, and so on. So I would like to propose a moratorium. I don't know what the period of time that would be, but I think it's important. I have heard there is another property on King Street where this is being contemplated by our prospective owner, purchaser. So, yeah, I think something we ought to think about. Thank you.
Any other public comment on this one? Go ahead. Yeah, sure.
Carl Smith, the applicant and prospective purchaser of 6 King Street. So I just wanted to say I did not set out looking for an investment property. As Kathy said, I rented the house with my family. I came here with my wife and 3 boys. We love the town. Unfortunately, we can't live here full time right now. It's not feasible. But we certainly plan on spending as much time here as possible. I would love for my boys to be exposed to the community here I would like to be part of the community, as much, I'm not sure yet what ways I can get involved, but I definitely want to be involved. The plan is to spend as much time here as I can over the years, hopefully increase the time I spend here. And eventually, my wife and I would like to retire here in that house on King. I guess insofar as an investment, it does cost money, so I don't, I want to protect the value of the home, and I don't want rowdy renters here any more than I think anyone else does. And I certainly welcome any comments any neighbors have, if this does go through. If anyone has any concerns, sees anything that is concerning in the use of the property, the type of people that are renting the property, I certainly want to know about that. And I don't want to see anything change in the town. I love the town for what it is. I don't want it to become a bustling tourist hub and be degraded in, I think, the ways that many people are concerned about, because that is what I like about it. And I think if that were to happen, then I would have the same concerns as you do. So that's all I guess I have to say. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment on this?
Speaking in one of these that much. It's off, so that works. My name is Brandon Brockmeyer. I live at 12 King Street. It's neither for or against. I just think something that we need to think about in town is seasonality. Do we want to become a town where people are here in the summer and it empties out in the wintertime? I think that's something for us all to just think about. And that's it.
You're on the planning commission, right?
I'm on the planning commission.
I don't know if you guys, no. He's not on the planning commission.
Can I share a couple of things? Just
Yeah, let me finish up. I got some people. Janet?
Janet Foskey, 16 Market Street. Let me be very clear, I'm not speaking on behalf of Main Street when I speak right now. Except in the capacity of being very aware and concerned about our downtown businesses. I think this is a really, really large issue that you all have to grapple with. It has so many effects that I don't even think we're talking about right now. For instance, if we become a seasonal town, in that kind of town, would our restaurants have survived COVID without the critical mass of full-time residents to keep them operating? There's so many little pieces to this puzzle. I don't think anyone was ever hurt by having to take a deep breath. Lisa grew up with our daughter Laura. I'm very fond of her. I wouldn't speak against either potential applicant here. They sound wonderful. I don't believe that an existing Airbnb has any standing to continue to be one. I don't think the rationale of that makes any sense. I think there are opportunities that you all might have that you could consider if you're concerned about the application process. I know that the special use permits, the council can at their discretion put parameters on this. You could possibly think about saying, okay, while we think about this, let's give them a year. And say we will guarantee a year. If we've heard nothing, then we will continue. That could be something you permanently put in place. There's so many ways that you all can configure this, but I think your main obligation isn't to two people in this room tonight. It's to the people who elected you, who live here in this town for the reason that the town has the character it has now. And I think you're obligated to consider that above all.
Any other public comment on this?
Grant Sudman, 23 Meadville. I just have a technical question here. I don't have the ordinances or the town statutes in front of me, so I can't look at it, but what is the requirement for applying? Can a prospective owner apply, or do our regulations say that it must be the owner applying for the special use?
I think we've had prospective owners before. Yeah.
Well, what do we say? What do our ordinances say?
It says the owner.
Owners.
The owner.
Okay.
That's the lawyer who was coming out, right?
A little bit, I'm looking at the
No, you're right.
finance here.
We can't approve the,
I can't answer, the owner has applied, correct? Yes, you don't own it yet, so
That's correct, prospective owner.
I guess it would be,
we can't.
I'm not aware.
Yeah, we've done prospective owners when it's contingent on the sale, just so that the transaction can be more seamless.
So the special use permit would be issued once the new owner takes
Correct.
possession.
Yes,
So
correct.
Right, yeah.
that's-
I don't think.
I also agree that
Yes, I
the,
disagree with that.
The code does not address that.
Right, not like that. It's the owner and the owner, period.
So
So
the code does not address that. And that's the point, is our code needs work.
right,
I also agree that the code needs to be looked at, and this needs to be studied, so that we don't become, Cape Charles has a 50% occupancy of permanent residents in that town. And I'm sure that the ones that are not permanent residents have their places as Airbnbs or BBROs. But I think this whole thing is something that needs to be looked at and sifted through, and that's what we have a planning commissioner committee for.
All right, thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing on the application for 6 King Street. Matt, you had some.
Yeah, I guess I wanted to share sort of the order of magnitude with the issue at hand, and I would absolutely endorse a moratorium because it is, but after tonight's applications. Because the folks who applied did it properly, they followed the rules that were in place, they followed precedent that we've set in the past. So I also want you to know that planning commission has been actively talking about this, and that this is their only agenda item at the next meeting, is to discuss this. We've talked about things like having a percentage of our inventory or homes by neighborhood as, so these conversations are actively happening. We have currently 9 approved special use permits in town. We have 750 or so dwellings. So right now, we're looking at 9 out of 750. I think that having planning commission being thoughtful enough and forward-thinking enough to take on this conversation now, when we only have 9, is perfectly appropriate, and I don't think it changes the character of our community. The first line in the Planning Commission comprehensive plan says to protect the neighborhood character of a Mancoun. And I think that they are taking that charge very seriously by adding this as their only agenda item. So I do think that I still maintain my recommendation for these 2 applications. I have no known applications outstanding right now, so I don't have anybody that's applied that's waiting for me to get back to them. So I have no known applications. I have these 2, and if these 2 were applied, we're talking about 11 homes in the entire town of 750 dwellings. So I don't think we're at an order of magnitude where we're changing the character of our community quite yet.
All right, council, I have a couple one. They just said that they've met all the requirements. This is a special use permit, and that's the whole point of it. And the neighbors weigh in. And just because they met the standards for applying doesn't mean that we automatically granted it. It's a special use. So we turned down one over on Ames Street because 2 neighbors complained.
2 neighbors and 1 letter.
Run letter, and we've had, and outside of this moratorium, we've had people, the neighbors not happy with this. That's one factor of this. There is precedent. We also had an application from somebody on Park Street that had a parking issue, and we deferred that for a month until we got that straight. So there is precedent for that as well. And you know, I'm not weighing, you know, personally, I'm not weighing in about the merits of either one, but there is precedent for, you know, delaying the thing until we hear, you know, them, or having a moratorium. I'm definitely in favor of a moratorium. It's up to council whether they want to put that in after these applications are before. So that's my theory. And I think that, you know, we definitely had some neighbors raised some concerns, and, that's the whole point of a special use permit, is to hear from the neighbors. And, there's some people that don't want to live next to an Airbnb, so that's their right, and they were here to voice that. So it's up to the council. So if you want to go around, weigh in on this.
Sure. So I completely endorse planning commission looking at this. And as Matt said, it's going to be the sole topic of the July meeting. That said, I agree with what Mavis said earlier in that I don't believe we have an issue at this point. We've had Airbnbs or VRBOs in this town for many years before we had an ordinance. We've had the ordinance on the books for 2 years. We certainly didn't have a whole lot of input from the public as we were discussing that ordinance. And to the best of my knowledge, we've had 0 complaints over the course of many years, even though these have existed in town. From my personal view, we are not going to become a Cape Charles or Chincoteague or Virginia Beach. I own a waterfront property in Virginia Beach. They're struggling mightily with this because you've got 10 or 15 college kids that want to pile into a house and go to the beach. I've got a 25-year-old daughter. The last thing she wants to do is come to an Hancock with her girlfriends because there's nothing to do. The people who are, I believe, populating these VRBOs and Airbnbs are actually the type of people we want to attract to the town, in my opinion. They are typically older, more money. They're spending money in the galleries and the restaurants. With 0 complaints to this point in time, I do agree that we need to have some upward limits and we need to be thoughtful about that. But I also don't think we can legislate to the least common denominator, specifically when there hasn't been a single issue to date. These 2 applications meet the current ordinance. They got in without any, issues about whether or not we were going to have a moratorium. I'm in favor of approving these 2 and having a thoughtful conversation through the planning commission about what we do going forward, but I'm not ready to say that we have an issue because we don't with 11, with 750 single-family residences in town.
Go ahead.
We did deny a homestay on Ames Street with 1 letter and 2 residents speaking against it. I feel that we would be arbitrary and capricious tonight to grant this with 1 letter and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people speaking against it. I was elected as a public servant to represent the residents and the businesses of Nantucket. And I think the residents of Nantucket have spoken very clearly to it. I live in a neighborhood. I like my neighbors. I was sharing earlier, one of my neighbors called last night because their fire alarm went off. And they wanted to know if we could get to their house before the fire department got there and crashed into their home. We got there 1 minute before the Nantucket Fire Department beat down their door. And kudos to the Nantucket Fire Department, they're incredible. And we were able to use the key to open the door. If there was an Airbnb there, I like my neighbors, I like living in a neighborhood. And this is one of those issues that is an opinion, and that's why we listen to your opinions. And this is, everybody's going to have an opinion on this. This is one of those opinion issues. I'm in favor of a moratorium. I think we should hold off on this, although I think Mrs. Kuba and Mr. Roth here would be great. And I think we're not saying we're denying, I'm not saying I would deny you that, but I think that this needs to go to the planning commission and to be looked at and thoroughly. And our code is very weak on this. You can get, anybody can get these, at any time. I am going to be opposed to LLCs coming in to buy properties to make a profit, or in that case, I really don't think that's going to happen. Like Bob pointed out, college kids aren't going to be coming to Nantucket, to party and those things. So, but I would vote for a moratorium and to tighten our code.
Well, with all due respect, the one on Ames Street we turned down, that landlord had a history of renting to people who were rowdy and not taking care of the property, stealing from their neighbors, and there was no off-street parking. So I cannot equate either of these applications with that situation. Plus, by right, anybody in R1 can rent, and God knows what you get in a 12-month tenant versus an Airbnb or VRBO tenant. So I don't think that we reduce our risk of having ne'er-do-wells or malcontents in town simply by not approving these two homestay applications.
That was the very point I was gonna bring up, because if that guy had an Airbnb, we'd be in big trouble. And one of the things that Onancock is, people tell me this all the time, is the friendliness of this town, the neighbors. When I stay at an Airbnb myself, I know who's next door to me, because people come over and say hello. And we would do the same, I would hope. And we would welcome somebody new to the town. If they're gonna be here a month or a week or 3 weeks, you wanna tell them what's available to us. We're spending a lot of money on tourism, and I think, and I understand the fears, because let me tell you something, I had a bed and breakfast. And when the bed and breakfast was there, the next one that came along, the concerns were, who's gonna be coming to our town? And what's all the traffic gonna be? People going in and out at all times of night. Well, that's not what it is, and that's not what kind of town we have. The sidewalks roll up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There's no one out. You can bowl a ball straight down Market Street, and you can get a reservation at any restaurant anytime you want. So don't be afraid to embrace something that is going to, that I think has a place in this town. To roll with the times a little bit here. My only concern, sir, is that you live away. And this ordinance says that their owner must identify a responsible party who is available 24/7. And how does that work for you?
I would continue in the same way that Scott and Kathy have. They have a family close by who takes care of the property, and I've already spoken with them, and they've agreed to continue on in that capacity. So and pretty much, I think actually every single way that they have been running the property, I intend to go forward with it. I don't think anything will change other than the ownership, as far as I'm aware of.
My other question is that you do not own the property yet, and yet you're applying for this special use permit.
We are under contract, so this
Pretty serious.
Yes. It's not just a thought, there's legal documents, and this is one of the last steps to
Okay.
finalize the process.
The other thing that I wanted to just mention is there are a lot of safety nets in place already. 3 complaints and you're shut down. That's part of the ordinance right now. Somebody has to be able to reach somebody to say, put an end to this. There are safety nets in place. And a part of what you were saying, kids are not coming here. You know, this is not who you're expecting. Little children, maybe, if you're afraid of them, oh well. But
Thelma?
Well, I abstain, because number one, I don't live in this downtown area, and I could be prejudiced because I have renters living on each side of me, and of course, if I could be a genie and blink them away, I would. So I'm abstaining from making any comments concerning this.
Ray?
I think we should follow the rules as they are currently. Support their applications. Just to take the objectivity out of it, our opinions should probably overrule the rules as stated right now. I support the idea of a study happening. Maybe the study should be done before we even suggest a moratorium. Why don't we see what the results of the study are before we form an opinion?
All right, I have one last comment. I think we've had 4 different neighbors, here saying that they were not opposed to this, so, and you're in your neighborhood, are you just ignoring that? I don't understand that. That's not, that's the point of a special use. So you're basically telling the neighbors that they don't,
Their opinions don't
their opinions don't matter, and that it's a procedural thing.
I've got a neighbor too, and I have.
I understand,
I have an opinion.
yeah, and but you've got 4 people, and that's my point. I guess we should have the moratorium. I don't see any problem with putting a moratorium if you want to pass this and put it on forwarding, because we need to stop. We don't want to have the same problem. If somebody applies tomorrow morning, then the count, it's going to take a couple months to study this, so we need to, if people know there's a moratorium, then they can hold off, and that's not an undue burden on them, for these 2, it's a different issue possibly, but my point is that if we need to, if we're gonna study this and we may change the rules, let's put a moratorium to stop other people from coming and applying and then having to say, well, they've already applied, we haven't got the rules in place,
I would support
Yeah,
that.
yeah, so-
I think these 2 people have been caught off guard in this conversation.
Right.
Done everything by the book.
Well,
I
it's-
stand by my comment that I respect the opinion of the neighbors, but by the same token, there have been 0 problems.
Well, a lot of
So-
times people don't report problems. I mean, I live next to one,
Well-
and there were noise issues, but I don't come up. I've been around to talk to people. A lot of people don't want to come in and report a problem. And there is a problem. It's noisy, so you
But
don't
there-
report every
There
problem you have.
certainly hasn't been a problem
No.
with this lady's.
No, I don't, I am not aware of any, but, it's just a security issue to know that somebody's coming in next to your house that you don't live there. And I wouldn't want to live next to somebody, if it's different people coming every weekend, it could be perfectly well run, it's just that it's not the same as having somebody, and you're right, they could be terrible neighbors. But, let's go ahead and move on. Do we need to, if there's any interest in putting a moratorium to limit, we don't want to turn these, well, I guess, I don't know how to work
You
this.
can do that administratively. If you just want me to withhold applications at this point, I let any applicant know that there's a moratorium on special
We
use
can talk about
permits
that
for
after.
homestays, and that part of it is just administrative. I'm glad to take care of that.
All right, so the first one is 9 Market Street. We're back on that. Public hearing's closed. Do we want to have a motion? I need a motion for 9 Market Street.
I will make that motion, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve special use permit 10:21 to allow non-Market Street to operate as a homestay as allowed and detailed in town ordinance 38-77 with the following requirements. All guests must park in the off-street spaces provided. The owner agrees with the transient occupancy tax code as detailed in section 16-72 through 16-81. And finally, the owner agrees to pay all water, sewer, garbage bills, and no landlord renter agreement will be allowed for a homestay property.
Do we have a second to that motion? Second. Discussion? I guess that's not right. Discussion. I think there was a comment about putting a 1-year limit on that. Is any interest in that?
That's not in the ordinance as it's written, and we've.
Well, it's a special use. We can say anything we want. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. All right, just bringing it up. That was mentioned. All right, any further discussion? All in favor? You probably need to raise your hand, please. Got 3 opposed? Okay, 3-1. Okay, motion passes.
Is someone abstaining?
Yes, yes. Okay. All right, we're back to 6 King Street. Need a motion on that one? Well,
Okay.
You got it in front of you.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve special use permits 7:21 to allow 6 King Street to operate as a homestay as allowed and detailed in town ordinance 38-77 with the following requirements. All guests must park in the off-street spaces provided. The owner agrees with the transient occupancy tax code as detailed in section 16-72 through 16-81. And the owner agrees to pay all water, sewer, and garbage bills, and no landlord renter agreement will be allowed for a homestay property.
second on that one?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? 3 opposed? Okay, 3-1. Motion passes. All right, thank you. Alan?
Do we need to discuss about the
Yeah,
moratorium?
I think we,
Totally in favor of that.
I think he's just gonna put that administratively.
Yeah, I'm absolutely comfortable doing that.
And that's just gonna be until we, no end to that? Just go
Yeah,
ahead
and
say that?
the planning commission, I believe, is June 20th, I'm sorry, July 20th.
Okay.
It's the only agenda item other than wrapping up the comp plan. We're doing a lot of research that started.
Right.
So it should be a lively discussion, and I hope everybody comes, truly. Yeah, truly.
And thank you to the homeowners for being here.
Yeah.
For potential homeowners.
Thank you.
Welcome to Annapolis.
Thank you very much.
All right, got a couple more, another public hearing here. This is the ordinance 3411. Matt, I think I'll let you handle this one.
You think? All right, so we are required to have an ordinance in place for the authorization to sell or transfer operation of certain municipal property. The code would read, the town may sell its wastewater collection and processing
Hold on a second,
system.
this is a public hearing, right?
Yeah, I was just
Okay.
gonna.
Open the public hearing on this, yes.
All right, what time is it? Hold on.
8:01.
Thank you. Oh my God, where is it? There it is. Thank you. All right, so the code would read, section 34-11, authorization to sell or transfer operation of certain municipal property. The text reads, the town may sell its wastewater collection and processing systems in part or in entirety with a recorded affirmation of 3/4 of all members elected to the council, notwithstanding in contrary provision of law, general or special, and under such other restrictions as may be imposed by law. This is State Code 15-2:2100. This was crafted by our attorney of record for the sale or the transfer of the wastewater plant.
Is there any public comment on the sale of the wastewater treatment plant? This has been going on for a year and a half. It's not huge. 2 years maybe, yeah. Probably, yeah.
Mom is still living, it's been at least 2.
Yeah, you're right. Any public comment?
Somebody really wants to buy it?
Yeah, that's right. They're not spending, well, they are actually spending. They're repaying our debt, so we're gonna lose, $3 million worth of debt. Anyway, all right, I'm gonna close this public hearing, and then, so we're moving on to the next one is the motion to adopt resolution authorizing sale. Matt, you're up again there.
Don't we need a motion
Yeah, that'd
to
be
approve the new code now?
Yeah, we need to move that.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve adding ordinance 34-11, authorization to sell or transfer operation.
Well, that's the one I just, that's the one I just, do, okay.
Yeah.
That's why I was moving on to G right now, okay, thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Is that this?
You have to add the code first, though.
Yeah, we have to add
Yeah,
the code
and
first,
then approve the sale.
and then we'll approve the ordinance that references it.
Oh, well, that should be a separate, yeah, okay,
So,
that's, add ordinance, right, okay.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve adding ordinance 34-11, authorization to sell or transfer operation of certain municipal property.
Is there a second on that? Second it. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. All right, now we need a motion to adopt resolution authorizing the sale. We just passed the ordinance, now we need the resolution. Do we have a motion for that? Is that correct?
It's the top of the second page of the proposed.
Somebody want to read that?
Is that this?
Yeah.
Ordinance of the council?
Yeah,
Yeah.
page 25 is the ordinance, the motions is written at the top of the second page. I think.
Somebody want to read that?
No.
Mr. Mayor, I move the town council adopt the following ordinance.
See, I picked a short motion.
The town council of the town of Nantucket, Virginia, consisting of 6 voting members, 5 councilpersons, and the mayor, in a duly called meeting held on the day the 28th of June, 2021, at which all members were present, adopted the following ordinance. The town of Nantucket is the owner of a wastewater treatment facility which stands upon real property owned by the town. Tax ID number 85A2-A-158, and after having negotiated an agreement with Hampton Road Sanitation District, intends to convey the said property and treatment plant to HRSD for and in consideration of the payment of all the remaining indebtedness due and owing with regard to the construction of said plant and such other items and conditions that set forth in said agreement negotiated between the parties. This ordinance is enacted to comply with the requirements of Virginia Code 15.2-1800 and 15.2-2100. The town manager of the town of Nantucket is hereby authorized to proceed with the execution of all necessary documents completing the transactions in accordance with Town Code 2.3, execution of deeds and instrument signing of checks. This ordinance is to be entered into the permanent minutes of Town Council. Its passage was authorized by a vote of 5-0, authorizing it to the Town of Hancock.
Second,
That's sick.
discussion? I hope not. All in favor?
Aye.
I guess we need a roll call on this, all right? Okay, all unanimous. Okay, thank you. Hey.
Thank
All right,
you, Mr.
appreciate
Town
you.
Manager.
Yeah, thank you. It's a long.
Fireworks.
Yes, well, we haven't gotten the check yet.
Yeah, I'm checking.
All right, don't say anything. Lisa's leaving. She's taking the notes. Thank you, folks. That was really an important vote.
Okay, motion to adopt 2022 budget.
Yeah, we've held all the public hearings required. We've had the workshops required. We've done the amendment for the sewer plant that we had on June 7th. The budget that's put before you includes the budget that's reviewed, commented, and heard by the public, as well as the amendment that was reviewed and heard by the public. So the final 2022 budget was presented to you in total of $3,070,468 of approved expenditures.
We have a motion to accept the budget?
I thought you couldn't do anything when Lisa wasn't.
I'm taking notes. I got it.
Okay.
Motion to accept the budget?
I'll take this one.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, Town Council, and the taxpayers of Hancock have reviewed and thoroughly discussed the budget for fiscal year 2022, and I move that the Town Council approve the government activity, special revenue, special revenue, water, and amended sewer budgets for fiscal year 2022 as presented this evening.
So you're doing both H and L here?
Yes.
In one thing?
H and I.
H and I, sorry. Okay, second to that? Second, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Got two down there. Okay, motion to adopt resolution for workers' compensation insurance. It's definitely out of my wheelhouse.
Yeah, this one's really exciting. There are certain times when the police department is under-resourced, and during those under-resourced times, they may take advantage of certified officers who come in and provide things like firearms training or other services that they can't do. They would be considered auxiliary officers at that point. Auxiliary officers don't receive compensation, but they would be considered under workers' compensation for the state Workers' Compensation Act. So we need to have a resolution that says that auxiliary officers would be considered as auxiliary police officers. I'll read the last part of it. Actually, it's part of the resolution, but it says that authorized to be included and treated as employees for the purposes of the Workers' Compensation Act of the Commonwealth of Virginia and entitled to all coverage provided under that act. This is required by our insurance carrier to cover any auxiliary officer who serves in that capacity.
Okay.
It's by an insurance agent. They wrote this, so you know, other than the top part where I actually compliment our officers.
So we're only covering them for the time that they're actually doing
Yes.
something for us. Is
That's
the
absolutely
purpose?
true.
So if they
Okay.
get hurt while they're training.
Yeah,
Right.
if they get hurt while they're training one of our team, or if they're actually providing
Okay,
services.
so that they are entitled to workers' comp and whatever necessary.
Correct.
Okay.
All right, do we have a motion to accept this resolution? Just read it.
Well,
No.
yeah.
I don't think this one.
Mr. Mayor, I move the Town Council adopt the following resolution.
I'll read that.
Do we approve the resolution
As written.
Yeah.
as written?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
All right, moving along here. Okay, I need a motion, we can probably combine these two. I need a motion to appoint T. Lee Bird and Carol Constable to the Planning Commission.
I would gladly make that motion. A lot of enthusiasm. I move that the Town Council appoint Mr. T. Lee Bird and Ms. Carol Tunstall to the Town of Hancock Planning Commission effective immediately, if not sooner.
I second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Aboard.
welcome. Okay, bye, Carol. All right, And the final public business here is the appoint person to fill the vacant seat on council. As many of you know, we lost our long-term council member. I just talked to her. Anyway, we need to replace her. The process was that if anybody was interested, they were supposed to send me an email or get in touch with me to, I probably took this out about a month ago or so. Yeah. And I had absolutely no interest at all until about 2 weeks ago. And then we had several candidates post there, and the candidates have been provided their names to the council. They've had a chance to talk among themselves and talk with these applicants, interview the applicants by phone or talk to them. I know some of you they called you. So that's the process. There's really no formal process that could be on that. So we basically are going to appoint somebody to fill on Catherine's term until it's going to be until the end of next year, 2022. So it's an unexpired term. So with all, with that, we need a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
I'd like to nominate Sarah Knopf for the position.
We have a second.
Make a motion that she be filled the seat.
Okay, we have a second from.
I'd second.
Discussion?
Yeah, discussion, sure.
Are the 3 applicants here tonight? I don't know.
I think Sarah's here.
Sarah's here. Are the other 2? I just wanted to see their faces.
Yes, right, okay. All right, we have a motion.
We know your face.
Any further discussion? All in favor of appointing Sarah Knopf to the council?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you. You need to go over to the courthouse, and I guess get up with Matt, and you got to be sworn in until you can't do anything until you're sworn in. And Matt will, and then.
I'll walk you through the process.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of you need a bunch of stuff about freedom of information and all that stuff. You need to get all that.
And I'll need to see you.
Yep.
You should become an
Oh,
employee
yeah.
of the town at that point.
You get your big paycheck.
Oh,
That's
right. Right, I don't know if you know you get paid, don't you?
I think I had heard that.
$1,200 a year, yeah,
She'll use that in ink.
that's right. Yeah. Anyway, so, all right, well, welcome aboard, and just, get up with Matt and get on as soon as you can, so we can get you going, and you can't do anything till you're sworn in, you know. All right, public comment, Steve Johnson is here from, who's our representative to the Commonwealth Transportation Board. I was gonna give him a chance to give us a few comments.
Mayor, members of the council, town manager. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. I do serve on the Commonwealth Transportation Board. One of the programs that they oversee is the Smart Scale program. That was developed about 8 years ago. It rolls around every 2 years. And just to give you a little bit of it, and this is a program that it is for the entire state, and it deals with all different types of construction projects. And in this year's application process, there were 406 applications that were submitted around the state. 12 of those came from the Eastern Shore, 4 from ANPDC, 4 from Accomack County, and 4 from Northampton County. And the focus of this is to deal with outcomes as they relate to safety, congestion, accessibility, environmental impact, environmental quality, and land use around the state. We are here on the Eastern Shore. We are part of the Hampton Roads District, which is the largest district in the state. This year, we had applications looking to spend $6.3 billion for construction around the state. The project that I'm pleased tonight to advise that has passed muster within the program is the road diet program for Route 179. From the basic convenience store basically out to Route 13 is both. This was put forward by Accomack County because the program goes not only in Hancock but also in Old. The project is for $1,728,000. It is in the 6-year improvement flow program that was passed by the Commonwealth Transportation Board at the meeting last Wednesday. I don't know yet where in that 6-year program the funding is going to be, but it is for 100% of the funding to do the project. And I'll be happy to answer any questions about it, but it's a positive situation for Onancock and only. The last time we had any projects on the Eastern Shore were the 3 from the second round. And those are the 3 stoplights, one that's up in, one that's down at the Food Lion in Cape Charles. Another is basically at the college or the industrial park. The other one is up in Temperanceville. There are some considerations now looking at what to do with the causeway going out to Chincoteague. We'll see how that works and how that project might score. We're also looking at what to do to get to the causeway on Route 175. So this is the project or program within the state that basically funds all the major issues other than rail projects. And the state just instituted a new rail authority, and in that authority, we put up $3.8 billion to be able to build a bridge and by rail for the state to materially improve the rail transit situation. So anyway, I'm happy to answer anybody's questions. Any questions?
I'm just glad you're taking care of it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Before you go, I don't know if many of you are aware, but Steve has been working with this HRAC transfer from the get-go. And if there's one person, we owe a huge debt of thanks is to him and all the work he started, several years ago. Back
about sewers?
Yep, sewer, HR, yeah.
That was
and he-
April 3rd.
I don't think
3
anybody.
years ago.
I don't think anybody realized. And it's now been taken, the town's taken over, but you really got the ball rolling, and I think, thank you. We're all your dad.
Without an Hancock facility, the project wouldn't go forward. I can tell you that HRSD is very interested in what they can do here on the shore. And the pipeline is being negotiated at this point, very close to understanding exactly who it is that's going to do the work. It's going to be a design build contract. The original pipeline is going to go from Nassauatics, where the old wastewater treatment plant is for the Riverside facility, and it's going to come up the railroad. We've been able to communicate with Canoni Atlantic that owns the assets of the railroad, which is 66 feet wide, to allow HRSD to be able to utilize that right of way for no cost. So recognizing that Canoni is owned by ANPDC, and that facility owns the one share of stock in Canoni. So really, who owns it but the citizenry of the Eastern Shore? So when you make that strong argument, they stand up and say, okay, let's find a way to help this project. For further information, there are ongoing discussions going on in northern Accomack County, i.e. Chincoteague, Wallops Island, Spaceport, all of that, to see what we might be able to do, talking about HRSD, what they might be able to do to help in that area. And at the same time, phase 3, the original phase 1 is the program that we're going to in Hancock, but phase 3 is Cape Charles. You might think about starting in Eastville, running a pipeline from there down through Sheridan, going and processing, if you will, in Cape Charles. So there are a lot of things that they're capable of doing, and with things coming out of Washington, some interesting opportunities for us.
Yes.
It's a pleasure to be able to work with the town and the council and work through the process of getting us to a point where we really have something significant. Getting rid of the debt and getting the maintenance off the back of the citizens in the town is really a big move. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, is there any public comment about anything we haven't discussed before? Kathy?
Can I speak about something we've discussed before?
Yeah, I'm not.
Public comment.
We're pretty, we're public comment.
I have to, Kathy Boyd, 5 Market Street. I have to say I'm incredibly disappointed with the council in your decision on approving 2 homestays. One is right next door to me and one is 1 house away. And although the people that that were for the homestays indicated nice things about B&Bs and what have you, 2 B&Bs are not in your neighborhood. So the town manager said that we had 9 homestays out of 700 and some homes here in Hancock. And now 2 of those 700 are right next door to me and 1 house away. I feel like you protected a sale of a home for people who, the people who used to live, Kathy and Scott Williams are selling their home. They now live in East Point, so you were protecting the sale of their home and somebody that we don't even know. I'm a resident for 9 years. Furthermore, it's great, Lisa made a wonderful argument that she grew up here, but she's not gonna live in town anymore. So then 1 house away is another homestay. Yes, there have not been any complaints, but when I swim in my pool, I have transient people next door to me. Always. I don't have good neighbors. I love my neighbors on either side of me. I love my neighbors 2 doors down. I feel you did Steve and me a real disservice and took care of people who are not town residents. And I want that on the public record.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to express my disappointment with town council as well. I think you just voted for haphazard growth, and I think you should have voted for managed growth. Difference. I think you made a mistake.
Any other public comment?
Hart. I think that Hancock is kind of a crossroads. We are marketing the town as a destination. And we want people to come here. And this is a new thought for me, because quite honestly, I feel very much the way other people in the room did and expressed their thoughts on having people we don't know here or transients or whatever. So my concern here tonight, though, is that the applicants don't own the property. They're not owners. It would have been an easy way to say, well, we aren't certain how we want to vote, or we are going to have a moratorium, or we'd like to discuss it further. But I think the person should own the property. Because it specifically says owners have to make an application. These are not owners. They are prospects. So it may close, it may not. And that's my concern there.
Any public comment? Okay, close public comment. Committee reports, HRSD.
Matt, you've got that in your town manager report, so you want me to just give the 50,000? Well, you guys have taken the first big step, one giant step for mankind tonight. And hopefully we are on track within a couple of weeks maybe to get the sewer plant transferred if the legal work can get done.
Yeah, at this point, it's the closing on a piece of property. I know we've got the deed and the plot and that type of thing to get done. So at this point, it's just literally lawyers checking boxes, but we should be moving forward as soon. Just so to be abundantly clear, we've already sent HRSD's legal counsel the bond documents with the payoff information. So as soon as they go through the documents and make sure that everything's set, that they'll be wiring the money directly.
And the next big step is obviously the collection system, which in my humble opinion, it's gonna be 6+ months because of the number of easements that have to be resolved and researched, and the real estate market is so strong that the title companies are very backed up. But the fact that HRSD will be responsible for all repairs and maintenance and ownership of that wastewater treatment plant, it's a strong positive, plus the town will continue to build in the interim until the collection system is transferred. And in my opinion, there's no way that HRSD will try to unwind this at the point where they send us several $1 million and the residents will benefit immediately. So we just gotta keep plugging and get the remaining piece done.
Okay, is that about the HRC?
Smart meters, Matt, are included in the deal?
Not in the phase one, no.
That's a collection system.
That's a collection system.
That one, but are they, you expect
They're-
them?
They are part of the terms that we're requesting in the second phase.
And do you expect them to be approved? So that means, we will receive our meter readings every 30 days.
I've been shopping for water meters, and anything you want to know about those, I can now tell you, I'm afraid to say. But yeah, what we're looking at are meters that have what's called an endpoint attached to them, and the endpoint would work on a cellular tower, and it works on Verizon. We have good coverage, and any cell endpoint that doesn't have immediate contact, we can use drive-by technology. One of the things that we're investigating is whether or not we can get immediate notification for extraordinary use. So if use goes up 10%, we'll be able to trigger an alarm. There's also technology where literally I can have the app, I say my phone like I'm ever going to do this, but a phone where if there were an emergency, you could disconnect service remotely immediately. So water meters come a long way. We're learning all about that, and all of these need to interface with our billing and accounting system. So I'm only looking at those that do. Again, these are part of the terms. Who knows where it will end up, but I believe that we're in a good position right now.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, waterfront.
Waterfront met on June the 8th. I'll let Matt talk about the ramp, because that's in his report, and that's a day-to-day thing, but we're getting close. Craig reported that both the transit slip rental and the club bookings for this year are far ahead of last year's pace. Matt will talk about the courtesy car and the rental golf carts, but those have been well received as well, and I saw them buzzing around town this weekend, so the golf carts at least. Also, Matt notified us that we had been awarded through the BPA another grant for the redoing of the front bulkhead that'll run from the fuel dock to the M1 slip, which is hugely needed, and congratulations to Matt for getting that done. So I think the plan is hopefully next fall to proceed with that if things go according to plan.
Yeah, the way that we're scheduling it right now is if anybody thinks I'm doing another project at the ramp during voting season, they're out of their minds. So, the way we're doing it is on July 1, we're going to begin engineering and design. We're going to go through permitting, and then we'll work with the bidding process so that if it can be complete, and I'm saying by March 1, then we'll begin. If we cannot be complete by March 1, including contingency, we're going to kick it a year and do it that way.
Is that a matching grant, Matt?
We have 20% requirement.
25.
Thank you, 25%. I knew as soon as I said it,
Come out of the gas.
25%. Yeah, we've got that budgeted already, and we're actually going to be approaching big this month, put the matching portion in their grant, and I think that that's a very reasonable ask, and I think that we'll actually do it. So we can get this bulkhead done for no cash down. I just feel like an infomercial, but that would be a pretty big
So
win.
there will be no town expense at all?
If we get the big money.
Great.
But if we wait for the big money, it'll be another whole season before we
Yeah.
can start the project.
And that the way it would work, yeah, that the timing of that would be close, but if we have to kick it a year, I don't mind, because we'll get all the engineering and the
Great.
drawings done, and hopefully we can get a bid done at the same time, so that we can involve the contractor with the design.
Okay.
Well, the bulk of the conversation at Waterfront revolved around the T and W block property and the dust issue and noise issue. Genevieve Walter, the president of T and W, attended. We had several residents from that part of town who offered thoughtful comment. I thought it was a good give and take on a difficult subject, and frankly, one that we do need to help broker a solution to. Genevieve agreed to have a well installed immediately on the property to sprinkle the product once it is offloaded. She had been exploring other alternatives, but it looks like the drilling of the well is going to be the best course of action and the quickest solution. And that will have to be sprinkled from the top down. I believe we got a commitment for her to have that in place within 30 or 45 days, which should not be an issue in terms of drilling the well. Also, she's working with a local company to develop a plan for a vegetative dust screen that would go, I guess, between the kayak shack and the property to try to catch some of that dust. And additionally, she agreed to have the no operation at all on Sundays. As the town, this is an issue we're involved in, but it's not our solution. The best thing that we can do is keep moving the process along as quickly as possible, because it is of concern to a number of residents. It should be to all of us. I believe the T&W wants to be a good corporate neighbor. They've been there a long time. But with Matt's help, I think we will move it towards a solution that will hopefully work. And if it doesn't work, we're going to have to help them revisit something else.
I'm not going to say correct, but I want to amend something they
That's-
said. They
please.
said that they were not going to work on Sundays. And what my recollection is that they were, because of labor shortage and heavy equipment operators, they were going to work very, very hard to get to the point where there would be no Sunday operations. But until they are able to hire the right people, there may still be if there's a problem. So I don't want to.
Yeah, thanks for that amendment. Absolutely.
The other question that I would have is that they've applied for their health department permit for the well, but it takes them a little bit of time, and the local company they're using is big. So we put a sort of an end date for them of 60 days with our expectation that there should be a massive move forward at that point. And they understand that's.
Have a well and you're adding water to, where's the runoff?
That's one of the bigger questions we've got. We spoke to DEQ about what runoff problems they would have, and what they're suggesting is that it's not watering to the point of oversaturation, that we're just using it to mitigate dust, so it wouldn't actually cause a problem. My concern from there, if we're sharing public worries, is that now we're going to be transporting wet stone up Market Street, which is going to give the trail to only even more definition. So I think that this is going to be trial and error. What I'm really pleased about is that T&W is willing to make an investment to solve the problem. They understand the neighbors' concerns. She was a consummate pro as she sat in front of the neighbors, who none of them had anything nice to say. And she took care of it and made promises to move forward. She's actually, I think, made financial commitments to do that. So I'm encouraged.
They let down low that you see all the time. You don't put a lot of water on it.
You shouldn't.
You just
So
dampen it,
that's
yeah.
where the runoff isn't a huge concern, because they're not going to be soaking it.
Yeah, I saw a truck going in there just this week with the water tank on the back, so they're all ready for it.
They're
They
spraying
have,
it
yeah,
from the truck.
they have a water tank, but they're doing their best.
They need
They need
a
the
sprinkler that's up,
Up in the air.
15 feet in the air and hitting it from the top down.
Any other comments, any other stuff from the waterfront?
Yes, sir.
I guess you're on, what do you got? Planning commission.
Well, I may have to defer to Matt because I was not at the meeting. There was not a quorum. I understand the comprehensive plan draft was discussed and healthy discussion ensued, and the commitment was made to dedicate the July meeting to the sole topic of the homesteads.
All right, personnel did not meet. We have a personnel evaluation, I guess, at the end of this meeting. So, okay, mayor's report, I don't have a lot. I'd like to announce the, a Main Street kickoff thing at second Friday. Get to show up for that. They're gonna be some giveaways, correct? Yeah, some things, free giveaways and things like that. So hopefully people will show up for that. The other thing is strategic planning. I think, we've been talking about this for quite a while. And you had the kind of thing you sent around about, what's the Hancock gonna be like in 10 years or something like that. And I think we need to get a work session at some point. Talk about, some strategic planning that, comes, we've got a town plan now. We need to convert it into a strategic plan with stakeholders weighing in on what they want to do. So if we can do that, I don't know, sometime, I don't know, maybe August is not the greatest time to do it. Maybe September, start working on that. But we need to implement some of our town plan stuff, and we need to decide what we want to be as a town. And I think we've put this off for years and years. Let's do it at some point. All right, anything else? Matt?
Yeah, the town manager's report, I put in a written, called it the state of the town for the entire year, because obviously June 30th is our fiscal year, so tomorrow night is our fiscal New Year's Eve party. But rather than read it, it's extensive, and I'm very pleased with the efforts, especially, I was a great unknown when I walked in a year ago, and the staff of the town has not only welcomed it, but they've worked incredibly hard for a lot of really great results. So I couldn't be more happy with my team. As far as the town manager's report, it's been ARPA all day, all the time. Every time the Treasury comes out with a new regulation, it's a dense read. I mean, the current code is 150 pages. Now the FAQ is like 44 pages long. I mean, it's about 200 pages of reading. We're going to put together a budget of projects that address a compilation of the stakeholder requests, staff requests, council requests, and then my recommendation is that we put a work session together to start talking about the timing, because if my rumor mill is true, we should get the money for the first tranche tomorrow. The state is really trying to push this out before the end of the year. If you remember, we do have a dedicated bank account set up for just these funds. All activity will be only these projects. So we'll give lots of good monthly reports on activity there. So a lot of ARPA, a lot of comp plan. We put together a comprehensive plan. The Planning Commission met, several times. We're at the point now where we've had each Planning Commission member go through and give edits to what you're going to see. So what my next recommendation is probably a July joint public hearing to have the public review the comprehensive plan. And then obviously council has final consideration and vote on that maybe as soon as August. That's why, Mr. Mayor, when you said that we should begin strategic planning conversations once you adopt the comprehensive plan, that gives you something that's been widely accepted and reviewed to begin planning off of. The boat ramp, it's going to be a great week for cement pouring. The walls on both sides and the sidewalk are going to be poured in all likelihood on Wednesday. Once that happens, it's really going to take shape. I think that within probably 12 days from now, we're going to be looking at a finished product. So we were targeting for July 4th. We just can't get we can't get a pumper truck on the shore. So they have to do it all by hand. So if you watch these guys, they're moving the cement thing by hand, and they've got to do it in multiple layers because they just simply can't get the cement pump truck down here. HRSD is also a big consumer of time, but we're at the point where we're really starting to look at what the impact is of transitioning our plant. That means that our employees that work there transition out. They're no longer going to be town employees. What does that look like for an emergency call? What does that look like? Who's the on-call person? What's it look like for, all of those things, because we're gonna be working under our current director's water license until our new technician gets licensed properly. So there's an enormous amount of transition that's taking place, and the guys have been working relentlessly with me to get this to where they're moving out of the plant down the street into the DPW yard and making it a place where we're going to be able to function. So hopefully the transition, nobody but us is going to know about it. That's really the goal. But there is going to be a pretty massive communication plan that's going to need to be put together for talking about the things that I just talked about. Who do you call when? How do you call who? All of that stuff. The rates and all of that was sort of the easy part. Now comes to letting everybody else sort of know how it affects them personally. So that's all underway. So it's been an insanely busy summer so far, but I'm thrilled. So I'll leave it at that.
Any questions for Matt? Council comments.
Bob? Nothing that I haven't already said.
Roy? Francis?
I'm sorry to have disappointed, but I feel we did the right thing for the right reasons. So, if your permit was on the table tonight, how would you feel if you did everything right and then somebody said no? I'm sorry if it was a disappointment, but I think we did the right thing and I feel comfortable with that. Sorry.
No? Right? No. Okay, we have a closed session coming up here. So we're here. Huh?
I didn't know about it.
Do they have a motion to go into? Let me print you something real quick. I'm assuming it's about personnel.
Yeah, I've got a motion from CSB.
Oh, okay. You want to do that? Okay. Can you? Do you want me to stay so I can record the vote when y'all come out and stuff? You don't have any of the paperwork to fill out.
All right.
Thank you. Count on you. Count on you. All right, you want to read it? Read the motion? Yes, we should. I want to hear these ones. On your house. I think I'm supposed to still be in the meeting.
You ready?
Yes.
I move that the board that the council convene a closed session for the purpose of holding a discussion of a personnel issue pursuant to section 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia of 1950 as amended.
Second. All in favor?
Who seconded?
Mavis.
All in favor?
Aye.
Wait.
Everybody.
All right, so that was
Portion A.
8:43.